So when you read sometimes in newspapers, they will say government, the Malawi authorities are pursuing a contractionary policy. Or they could say they are pursuing an expansionary policy. Can you guess what they mean? When you read in newspapers, when they say that, can you guess as trainee economists, can you guess what they mean? Come on. When they say expansionary policy or contractionary policy, what do they mean? Contraction is expansionary. What do they mean? Basically, they are talking about demand. Demand which spurs production. So you are expanding. Demand which is influencing production. Remember, when we were discussing consumer sovereignty, we talked about you as consumers, you people who demand things, you as customers, you influence what the company will produce through your voting powers at the till. So when you get an item in ShopRite, it could be a soap. In that shelf, there are so many types of soap, and you picking the type of soap that you want. The moment Patirupaj akapanga keche, that's your vote. You have voted. So at the end of the day, they will see how much of this tablet of soap has been bought. So some tablets of soap will have many votes, others will not. At the end of the day, through your purchase, mkamagura. Now that is believed to influence producers, because that shop owner, now when he's ordering, he will be looking at zimene zikuyenda, which ones are being bought, which ones need replacement. So he places an order to call in more supplies. That in itself is a decision from the consumer through your voting powers. Your purchasing power is reflected as a vote for that particular product. So this expenditure you are doing, this buying you are doing, is the demand. So if the government is using expansionary policy, it means they are trying to spur demand so that production can increase in the system. Okay? Now, remember what we said about when there's too much inflation, what does the government do? If inflation is caused by too much demand, they will try to make sure cut your voting power, cut your purchasing power, so that there's that demand which is pushing prices up should go away. It means they are doing what kind of policy there? Contraction. They are trying to reduce your demand, so that prices should not continue going up. Remember, when prices are high, producers are happy. Consumers are not happy. Because when prices are going up, usually they go up higher than the employer can increase your salary. So you end up being worse off. That is why government doesn't like it. Don't be rigid in your thinking. This discussion is very fluid. It's not stuck in stone. It's not in concrete. Why am I saying that? When inflation is going up, sellers are happy, buyers are not happy. And yet, the government wants to do something about it. Why would you do something about it when the producer is happy? Why would you do that as a country? It's because there is also politics involved. When you are unhappy, you will vote out the government in power. Even though this inflation is encouraging producers. The other problem is that when you are unhappy, you start reducing your expenditure. You start buying fewer goods than before.
Is a cave
conversely,
what is this?
The producer will also start feeling the pinch once you start buying lower than before.
Life.
Because of
there are times when we learn certain things, right? Because of certain things,
you are unhappy about, right? And you start
because of experience. Sometimes you can learn a new thing, or you can learn your old mistake, right? Now, a learning curve, for example,
buying less and less,
let me just give a simple
now, this producer who was happy with the prices will end up with too much things in the warehouse.
Students, for example, okay? So here you have 100%,
supply will start 60, getting higher,
50, of course,
than demand.
90, 80, and 70, and so forth.
When supply gets higher than demand, 20, that in itself will start
to 0.
Pushing prices down.
Right?
So,
and
in fact, sometimes it's not good to intervene. The market should correct itself.
Level of preparedness or whatever it is and something like that. Right?
Government
in terms of
just leave it.
Your preparation for exam.
According to economic theory,
we start preparing
here now.
First week.
You can see that
before, or second week,
imbalances,
third week,
when supply is higher than demand,
and fifth week, when you are going to have an exam. So we are just looking at that.
Down. It will balance.
And from your own experience,
start going down,
you know that when you write an exam, right, and you prepare from week 1 to week 5, your performance will go out to about 80%, or let's put that 90%, right?
The theory of demand and supply.
And it will just be like that. Right?
It's
so you're a 90% performer here.
That's why when we're talking about
you reach that
prices,
at
the stability, 5. You cannot put it at one price.
Right?
Even though
now,
we say
from week 1
prices where demand
to whatever it is, right?
The supply
and so forth and so forth. This is how you are.
Each other, where they meet.
Demand
and supply is the same.
Now, you start from 1st to 5th week. During an exam in that particular subject, you score a 90. Right?
On inflation,
and there will be somebody who knows an exam is coming, but he will start preparing
and then
week 3.
Cost push.
Right? So week 3, he will be here.
We said these are the 2 main.
Week 4, he will be
this one is because of the cost of production is high,
right?
So the suppliers
and at week 5, he will be at 40.
Cost of production. This is about the supplier.
This one would be a 40% pass rate for this individual here, right? And so forth and so forth. Or you start preparing the last day of an exam.
Mainly influenced by
you are here. So you are here. it will be
So the
0%
policies
at
are
that one.
separate.
Does that give you an example of what we mean by a learning curve?
Try to address
A learning curve
the consumption part of
is a situation where
expenditure
when
part
you
of
compare what you do, right?
So the expenditure, which is
using certain
consumption,
processes,
we already
right?
covered the theories
And your
for that.
achievement, and when you compare
Issues of-
what you
issues
do
of disposable income.
with maybe
So
less
policies,
or fewer processes that you put in,
will try
right?
to
You see the
do
variation
a contraction
in what you
contracting
score,
your
what you
demand,
achieve, gives you the learning curve. So you learn, like
forcing
here.
you to buy
You know,
less,
if you start preparing the last
which
minute,
can be done in
the
several
chances that you will
ways.
not pass is very high.
One,
It will be 0, right?
raise
If you
the tax
prepare
so that
right from week one,
your
the chances are that you are going to
home
get
salary
up to
becomes
90%.
low.
So your learning idea here is that an examination is not supposed to be prepared on or during the last week of
higher
an exam,
interest
right?
rates in
But
the system,
right from the term, the way to go,
so that
first
you are
week.
discouraged from borrowing.
That's what it means, right? So what the discovery of your performance
companies
here
should start
gives you what you
projects.
call the learning curve. Something that you have learned from
Three,
as an experience.
government should reduce expenditures. Stop
Okay.
old projects.
Let's
Don't
look at
start
children, for
Make sure
example,
the money in the
preschoolers
system,
and those who don't
demand,
go to preschool.
gets
If you
contracted.
take that child who has been here and one who has never been in preschool, right?
The cost
There's quite a lot of
is
things that you
different.
can learn from them. How they behave
The cost
and how they act and react and things like those. Unlike the other one who has never been exposed.
So people can buy
right?
and
Muna zingorira kauna ndia saya zingorira becomes
expand.
socially withdrawn
Why?
and something like that. Now,
because you
you are not sending a
cost
child
of
to
money.
preschool to mix with
Because
others
this
to
is
improve
about
that
cost of
child's
production.
social
So the cost of
being
production includes the cost
versus
of
the child who goes there becomes your learning curve.
So you
to
can try
understand
to
how
reduce
children
that.
grow up and develop, right? By exposure or something. So non-exposure of your child to your service becomes your learning curve.
You
So
can
you
try
understand that next
look
time
at
up
labor.
to. Now, if this is
Reduce
your
minimum
score,
wage.
because you have started preparing now, right?
Because labor is also part of cost
And
of
somebody, or you, when you're in first year, you always used to
For
prepare right
entrepreneurs
from week one,
who
and
are
the
doing
performance was
business,
very high.
What do you do?
That gives you a learning curve. It means somewhere you are not doing very well. So your experience becomes your learning curve, right? How do you improve? How do you do it? And something like that. This is what it is. Now, in evaluation, it also does give us that type of learning curve where we understand why. For example, is it the policy development processes which were not well designed? For example,
already you have helped.
why would you fail to achieve what you wanted to achieve
they can
when you
borrow
sat
money.
down and designed that one? So it gives you
more
an area to learn. So an evaluation also gives us that type of learning, right? And sometimes a policy can be designed
What about the cost of
targeting people who actually don't deserve anything in that particular
which
area.
is same as when you are
For example, another very good example of the learning curve is, let's assume you're a
Now,
government
on
officer,
unemployment,
right? You come into area 15 and you say, here we are building we're building a primary school for your children, right? In area 15.
Things. So we
That's a primary school for area 15, and there's government
cyclical
school,
unemployment.
right?
This
You build it,
is
no problem.
about
Now,
demand
after
in the
completion, you expect children
can
to be
see
enrolled,
that
right?
cyclical unemployment is about demand in the
And
system. Just the
you
same
discover
as
that
inflation, you
2, 3, 4, 5 months down the line, there's no child who's being enrolled in that.
cyclical unemployment is about
What would be the
booms and lows of the economy.
You have built the school, right? But children are not coming.
So
what would be the problem? It's a policy issue, right?
Period of expansion.
You designed
You
and
get
you are
a
now
climax.
implementing a program.
That
Here's the school. They are not coming.
Climax
What would be
starts
the issue?
getting, takes you to a downward
Right. That
trend.
when you come
And
back
then
to
you reach
evaluate
the bottom,
to give you a learning
you can no
curve,
longer go
right?
as bottom as
the issue should be very, very
you can
simple.
only start going up
Did
again.
you consult people in area 15?
So these
That's
are business
they
cycles.
want a school.
This is
Or just built
expansion
a school
period.
and built it, right? Have you seen programs or projects in the rural areas
This is contraction
which don't
period.
work, right? Because a politician just brought something which
In
people
terms
don't
of
want,
business
and it still be there until it collapses, right?
Now,
that gives you a learning curve. That in any policy and program implementation, you need stakeholder engagement.
They are happy with prices, so they start.
Let stakeholders tell you what
more and more factories
and assess if you think that is a need.
Prices are good, which means there is inflation.
We only come back to us here.
This period. Remember,
no, sir, what is that?
When prices are going up,
what is this and what is this?
Are happy.
And with an example.
Because they want to make money. So they start.
Tell us what a need is and with an example
they expand. Now, when they start increasing production and expand, they employ more people. So this time, prices are going up.
So just give us one example. I mentioned about a program in area 15. You bring a school. 5 months down the line, there's no
employment is good.
School. And what we are looking at is the learning curve. You are doing your evaluation, you discover 5 months, nobody's coming.
Because businesses are happy, they want to produce more and more, so they
don't come.
They start
and yet they still go to school.
But remember, they are happy with prices
Which
going
schools?
up.
Private schools somewhere else. So
inflation goes with
the problem would be very simple. You did not engage beneficiaries, right? To check
now when you reach there,
area 15 or not, they'll tell you,
things start getting
private schools.
Bad.
Government schools
because they have been expanding.
Right? Those are the issues.
Why now they are producing too much in the system.
Area 15. Do you have a primary school in area 15?
So the supply will start exceeding demand.
Not that they don't know that there will be children.
So when supply starts getting,
but they didn't build one. Why?
More than demand, prices start falling down. So this period when prices are falling down, which is deflation, opposite of inflation is deflation. Now, when prices start going down, because there's too much supply,
policy evaluation,
businesses now
starts like that.
Accumulating things in the warehouse. Right? People are not
But
buying.
why didn't they put a playground
as much
for children in area 15, area 47, everywhere? Do you have any playground for children? Why?
You have expanded so much that you were so crazy at expanding.
Why?
Without
47 you go, you don't
looking
have
forward
15
to what
you
this
go, you don't
expansion means.
All those big areas you go, there's not even a place for children to play.
Now when you start not selling, what will happen? You start accumulating things
because
in the warehouse. So you stop
our developed, our colleagues developed countries,
you keep on producing.
Those
at the market there,
are always
things
available for children. They take care of those things.
Going well.
Somewhere a ground.
So you are starting accumulating. You cannot continue.
A library.
You have to stop.
Whatever it is, all sorts of things. Recreation and something like that for children around.
So when you stop, you start laying off people. You start firing people because you don't need them.
Where do the children?
So this period will create unemployment
from areas like these, indulging out of drug and alcohol. Because they wake up in the morning, they have nowhere to go.
Sorry, supply is higher than demand.
But when they move out and cross, go into Saint, go into Musiriza, they see the freedom around.
Until you reach
children running around,
rock bottom
of things, and they run from there, they go there.
And when you reach rock bottom, because you stop producing,
60% of children in 47 have a drug problem and alcohol problem.
Prices have become
they
so low
into Musiriza,
what does this
alcohol,
say?
they come back.
When prices start going down,
the walking alone from here to Musiriza, what do they see?
So eventually, you will see that
you can see how
policies now is at this moment
the benefit of the country or something like that, and that's why evaluation becomes important. So the questions I'm giving you are the questions which must come out as a learning curve.
Prices start rising.
What mistakes did I make? That's your learning curve. When you say what mistake,
employers start being happy again.
That becomes your learning curve.
Producers start being happy again.
You have to find out why.
They start
when they had. That gives you a learning curve. Why am I performing so poorly?
Now,
right? Why am I performing so poorly?
Prices have started picking up.
Preparation. You prepare on Sunday.
So they start expanding again.
Right? What do you get? Nothing. So that becomes
what goes. So what was here starts repeating itself.
So here, the intervention. So
as you can see,
gives you
it is a cycle.
Outlook of whether or not the intervention.
There is unemployment when
good enough,
things are not doing well for businesses.
Let's look at some of these
unemployment here.
Types of
there's unemployment here.
Or two types of evaluations.
Things are not doing well. Prices are so low.
There's one which you call the formative evaluation.
They are not.
We shall dwell on this one, and when we come next, we shall dwell on the other one.
Cyclical unemployment. This unemployment you find here and here.
Formative evaluation.
It's about demand in the system. Yes, Yanko, you wanted to speak.
What is supposed to be?
Don't talk about digital money.
Does it show there when it is on?
It shows a green light.
No, there's a plenty green light here.
Deflation is when prices are going down.
Okay, so there are two types of evaluations. Today we will dwell on the formative
demand and
evaluation,
production, because as you can see, demand and production is going together.
When I say formative, to form
when demand is high, prices are going up, right?
When
demand is high.
We're talking about formative evaluation. Going up. What is it?
Okay, production
is an initial.
When there's deflation,
evaluation,
which
helps you to form or to create
what we
or
call
to build
recession,
something like that, right? So it is usually the initial evaluation
and
which informs you about what you are going to do, how you are going to do it, and something like that. So
I have
formative evaluation,
a short
in most cases,
notes there.
Is about
between recession
you finding out
and depression.
What you are going to do and how you are going to do it. Naturally, in your policy,
when
deflation has your objective,
consistently
mission, whatever it is, all those things, and these things will have given you a goal that you want to achieve, and also your outputs at the end. Now, for you to get there, there must be some processes which you must go through. One of those processes is how do you get the information and how do you analyze that information, so that it's going to help you when you start to implement an activity.
What could be government policies here?
Or as a project?
When you see this,
what's the difference between
tell
a project
you what government should do.
No, I've changed my mind now. It must be Esther.
Why is unemployment a concern? Can government lose votes because of unemployment? Or we should use economics, let it correct itself? Because as you can see, it is correcting itself. Even though it brings in silence, it's correcting itself. So in most cases, economists will believe in no government intervention. Economists usually believe that the market should work to correct itself. That's where you have Adam Smith, where you have what he called invisible hand. There is a hand which will correct things, and this hand is not visible.
Yes,
Meaning the market should be able to correct itself.
Okay.
But usually governments are not happy with this. So sometimes they try to intervene. Why should they intervene? They intervene because this thing is bad, it's creating an employment. You can shorten it. So instead of it running like this, it could maybe somewhere here
package of activity or an activity, right? That
so instead of
an individual
down to
or
here,
organization
because of government intervention
intends to implement, right? To targeting a specific geographical area.
But you can never stop it completely.
Could be a geographical area, or it could be a specific category
because of the behavior of the market
people.
So that's why they now, right? As you can see, so here, be what did we say?
Something
here
targeting
no demand.
Children.
Companies are not selling
as a project.
Prices are going down.
And would be something targeting children.
Companies are
in the door, for example.
Laying off people.
Right. But if it is in the door,
what is the problem with unemployment?
And what covering the whole door, to you, it becomes a program.
To your family,
within that specific area,
to
right?
Your village,
on that specific area of focus.
To the economy of Malawi, to the
so employer, it will be specific. Employee. But if you look at it from a broader viewpoint, it becomes a project, not a program. But you can say
unemployment in your family will mean a lot of things.
Because you are covering the whole door.
You will not be able to meet your daily needs.
But from your headquarters point of view, it is not a program, it is a project in the door. But when you are in the door, it becomes a program because you are covering the whole area around.
You can't meet.
So that's how you can look at these two things.
You can't eat the way you want.
A project is normally,
because you are unemployed.
It normally focuses on a specific geographical area, and it can
also bring crime,
other smaller pieces within it, but as a project in that specific area.
Stealing
and as you put it, a program is broader and wider, covers.
So your community will have full of these dangerous people who have. There will be
geographical area which is bigger than what
people
the
start being
does.
Depressed.
And normally programs.
So people's.
You see, you understand my explanation here.
Life becomes unbearable.
Viewed from outside, right, and viewed from inside.
So your community will be affected.
Can it differ the way you understand them? If you are looking at the HIV and AIDS program, for example, right? It's for the
what about employers? Employers also.
But within that broad spectrum of the program,
unemployment,
you have projects within, which focus specifically on specific geographical areas, right? HIV and AIDS for children, maybe in Mponera only, becomes a project.
Politicians,
program, the way you put it. So the program is broader.
Also start using
small pieces around, right? As projects within.
Because some people believe that the government should be the one
of course, for layman and anybody, the project is an activity undertaken in a specific geographical area.
You can't blame government
on
for
one specific area that you want to.
City by Cheetos because of government.
This is how you look at it, right?
Come on.
And
what kind of system are you? Are you in a command system?
It's broader in coverage.
Or you are in a market
and
system.
can bring in smaller pieces.
Market and capitalism or mixed economy.
I give an example of HIV and AIDS as a program across Malawi, right? But you have smaller programs around.
So
immunization for whatever
start
children and something like that. To be focusing on children in that area and something like that. So
maybe the government comes in only if they are not
providing the right. It is quite an interesting area if you want to define
if roads are
and something like that. But what I like is the creativity that you must
businesses
have.
cannot do well.
And the example I gave you, if you are doing HIV and AIDS
because that market is very difficult to reach. Because
as an organization,
the road is bad.
For example, Action
That's
Aid,
where government comes in, enabling environment, or enabling environment.
That is a program.
But no,
in the door,
most governments
covering the whole door.
Gets affected when there's too much unemployment.
But for anybody looking at it, that program which is in the door, right? It becomes a project if you look at it from the context of Malawi as a country, right? So we'll be having HIV and AIDS project in the door.
Also because when people
are looking at it from outside,
living standards are very low because they are
this is how you understand those.
A voter who is
I know but there are a lot of
unemployed
definitions and how people understand them, but the important thing is you put yourself in a situation. If it is you focusing on something in an area, it becomes your project. But if you want to cover the whole area, it becomes a program, particularly if it is bigger, like a district or something like that. So it depends on how you look at those.
Desks like these,
and also
they can go and
there are two things: inside looking and outside looking. Right? You see,
now the government starts replacing those
around.
So it is their interest.
So here, when you look at the formative type, this is it.
Structural unemployment.
The beginning where you're trying to look at what data is available, how do I analyze it,
how do I go ahead
try to implement
structure
or design a program. And also, it helps you to get the feedback.
The structure of
remember the feedback issue I talked about. I mentioned about you can have a school in area 15, but the people don't take it. Because of that lack of
I don't want you to write zindu za chabe chabe pamajezi.
Because
ndugu yangu uratu hapa kuti cyclical unemployment
just brought the project, right?
Hapa ndi kuti structural unemployment. Koma ena makanga kuti munali mkarasi mmamva.
Actually in area 15 our children don't go to government schools.
Kuti zipeza mwana wina wake anali mkarasi momuno koma
because you can afford
fuso sakuyanga
the resources.
That's also because most of you don't write.
But what we want here
simu kutenga manotes.
Because things come to bother us, they think we have money. Right.
And
Now you have had your feedback, right? So you go back and your policy should be looking at issues of
division
security in Area 15.
What is Mungungo Karajon?
If you tell them we want to build police station or whatever outposts in Area 15, want contributions, everybody will contribute. Because they are going to be beneficiaries, right? Of that security. But if you say want to build the primary school in Area 15, want contributions, nobody will contribute. They tell you no. Fetinasi ya kubereka tilibeana. See you nje. Fetinasi ya kubereka tilibeana. But they're not doing it. So that's why we do the formative evaluation to get feedback from people that we are dealing with. And also, it helps us to get how you map out the strengths and the weaknesses of the policy. When we are designing this policy, was it really necessary? I think I've given you a lot of examples.
Yes.
The lower shire,
structure and employment.
Now the lower shire guys are very happy.
Changes in the structure of the economy.
So
for example, the economy was used to
the no government is going to give them blankets,
are doing the job.
Right? Yeah, every year they know that.
Now,
and the government still knows they are spending and they're going to spend. They're also getting ready now for people in
technology.
Something went wrong somewhere at
instead
the beginning.
Of using human beings,
so people are used to that. Machines. So whatever they bring now, they'll resist, right? Some can put them.
This company was employing a lot of people, packing packets and bags and boxes in the warehouse. Then they decide to buy forklifts and things like that.
So you have all those things around.
So all these are warehouses. Now these guys have decided to
let's look at
using machines.
The importance of
and they only want 3-4
this type of
fire.
Evaluation. Actually,
so
just give us very valuable information that can help us in anything that we want to do,
skills,
particularly the implementation
and
of
skills that are needed
programs
by
or projects.
employer.
And also, it gives us
an
opportunity to look at the areas where we can correct.
Happens when there is a mismatch.
For example, if you came here
between
with,
what the skills that employees have
in Area 15,
and the skills
and
that
when you're engaging with stakeholders and people around, they tell you no, but we don't need this.
You will create an employment because
now, when you go back, you are now refining your view of what you want to do in Area 15 by addressing what the
people get unemployed because
needs
of structural changes,
right? Needs
of the economy
at that particular time. And not what they want.
A lot of companies, instead of being labor intensive, they have gone capital intensive.
What do they need? Right. A need
instead of
is a necessity. That's what
adding things up,
right?
Do without. Calculator.
That's one way.
Installed the computer.
The second way is that a need
just processing the data
is
through whatever data
identified by
no
a
longer
somebody, something outside yourself. Right? A need should be seen by somebody, not yourself.
They have stopped employing people.
I can give you an example.
To go and look for quotations.
If our president
when they are buying, procurement system in that company has become automated.
All of you here.
No longer anybody going out for
this 5 million must be spent. So they are not employing somebody to do that. If you don't, we'll take it back.
They have gone automatically.
What are you going to do?
They are online.
You want all the needs that you want to do. First and foremost,
they use the employer of salesmen.
Because that's not what you want. See your chest.
They are no longer doing
just give you 5 million. You can just go there and okay, when it was 5 million,
online. And they just need one person to do the content.
Yeah. So you're overwhelmed.
Those
you have never touched
you called salesmen.
Something like that. Yeah. But if you came here and asked you what
you have not
think that 5 million,
you will see that a lot of companies no longer do that these days. Very few who have flyers.
What do you do? You can buy an iPhone here for me.
Have you seen that these things are going down?
Yeah,
so the structure of the economy is changing.
What I'm trying to emphasize on here is that
those people were being
usually identified from outside of yourself, jobs. Right? Because that can only be identified through an assessment of that particular individual's situation. That becomes a need.
That the employer maybe...
Because if I come to you and I say,
that you should be a computer,
I think you need pizza.
not what hands
zero peace are something that you can't do without
skills
if you have seen.
Kupita ku gym kuti
Okay. So that will not become a need from my viewpoint. I will be a very bad assessor. I was an assessment officer, right? But if I say yes, I think
when
we need a better
those structural changes, when the skills that employees have are no longer matching,
can we give you some malata and we give you a better house?
Employer wants.
Yes. But if I say, here is the money,
and this is what we
build a better house, you may decide to buy a car because that's what you want. Because you see people driving around, right? So you can see that a want is self-driven.
Then there's what we call
to meet self-interest.
Friction.
That's the want. A need is outside.
Unemployment.
Yeah? From
structure
but identified by somebody who has done a thorough assessment of your situation.
What do you think the government can do?
Substantiate that what it can provide actually is a need. And a need is something that can support life. That's what she said.
Yes.
Yeah.
Government can intervene
of a piece and the sim.
by putting up activator.
We don't
technical and vocational skills.
You read it, you training, and you will not die.
To what
so
the industry wants now.
So this is how you look at
That's
it.
what the
so
government
here,
can do.
Your evaluation here, it gives you all those types of understandings of what people would think or what your beneficiaries would be looking for. So this is how it should.
Give people skills.
And also, it helps us to ensure that the outputs and outcomes
do that?
Actually meet intended
remember the discussion in macroeconomics, right? Where we talked about...
You have never seen anywhere when you started looking at the policy issues where I've used the term words. Right? Because the policy is being looked at from outside and we're focusing inside into who do we target. But for us to target those people appropriately, you have to do the assessment around, right? To understand.
These are what we call merit goods.
They think it's important to them or necessary, and also what we think as experts is necessary for them or not. So this is how an evaluation comes in. And here, as I mentioned earlier, it becomes a learning platform as well for implementers and even decision makers.
There is under consumption. Yeah.
I think we have seen quite a lot of
these are goods where there is under consumption.
Particularly politicians.
Why is there under consumption?
Bring things which
because people do not know the benefits.
People never think about.
Because people estimate the benefits of going to school, for example.
Traveling to some village.
Of going to the hospital, for example.
During rainy season,
so, for example, there is government institutes.
This time around, I went there.
Cervic cancer screening.
The guy called World Cancer
for free.
Has built a nice
or eye tests for free.
So that you will have no problems.
And yet you find
but the problem
that
is
week they are doing
eye tests for free.
Cervic cancer screening for free. People are not going.
So you can see.
Not as much as the government would have wanted.
Where people can cross
it's because there is under consumption.
See your jet? But do not ask people who go there driving whether we want that type of bridge or not. But has put up concrete and he says it's costing over 10 million. It was very small, very short, maybe about 3 meters and very thin.
So when there's knowledge gap and under
so you start looking at politics,
private sector might not be well placed to do it.
Yeah. So here, that is how
remember, private sector wants things which are demanded.
Something else here.
Why?
What is the goal?
You don't do things where you will not have customers.
Evaluation. One,
even if
it helps us to improve the design of programs. Formative will always help you on your design. It is informing you. That's what is formative.
It's under consumption.
As you are forming, it will inform. It's formative because it informs.
The other thing,
right? And
the other reason is
do it.
What we told.
And also, when it comes to implementation, then it becomes easy for you because you have learned a lot of things along the way as you are designing, and also as you are planning to start implementation.
Beyond you.
Then you have learned quite a lot of issues.
When a person is well educated,
and also
we assume
the issue of choices.
He already says he will be a better person.
How do you choose certain
understanding yake imakura
over set other things around, right? So here it also gives you the opportunity to exercise strategic choices.
He will not be
things that you are going to choose that are going to build into your program and also that are going to lead to actual attainment or achievement of your goals, something like that. And also,
not you.
it's an approach which gives you the direction. It's very easy.
Once you say that,
because you cannot just come up and say, we're going to have a project or to have a program without a path.
You are saying your ideas are stupid. I'm not saying you are stupid. I'm saying this idea you are bringing.
That type of pathway to get down to
and you can give reasons.
Implementing your program
you can give arguments.
As designed.
There should
so
be
this
no
is
offense.
how it would be. And also, as I mentioned earlier on,
so education,
it does give you an evaluation.
It creates you as
is it going to be effective or not? Are we going to attain a level of efficiency or not?
Higher.
Right?
So,
are we going to meet our intended goals or not?
Externality.
And if not, what next?
Anyway, we digress a little bit, right?
It is it provides
now,
us
frictional
with
unemployment is an employment which is usually temporary. It doesn't last very long.
Feedback mechanism.
Frictional unemployment is
all these things around it.
Temporary, that involves you, for example, changing a job or hiring a new person.
Let's look at, am I too fast?
Sometimes voluntarily withdrawing from the labor force.
So,
what do we mean by withdrawing from the labor force? Labor force is people who are of age to work and they are looking for a job, but they cannot find a best job. Now, in the labor force, you can have people who can withdraw. They are of age, but they are not looking for a job. So, for example, this person could be mwina ndi nzimayi wangobereka kumene ndiye watenga maternity leave. Akatenga leave ija, she is unemployed, but kuti apese ntchito ina, now that when she is ready to go back and work, it may take a few months kuti alembedwe so ntchito. So that time she will be declared as unemployed. Nthawi zina when you are just changing a job, so you are moving from Blantyre to Lilongwe because you have found another job.
Yeah, so here,
this is
some of the issues that we're talking about.
But 29,
give that feedback. And actually, in any program or design, if you cannot do your assessment,
meanwhile, and
also what may
impede frictional
your implementation.
Friction
becomes quite complicated, and that's why formative evaluation becomes important.
What is friction?
Let's look at what some of the purposes of formative evaluation. I mentioned about the issues of feedback. Just give us feedback to yourself as a designer, as an implementer, as a stakeholder, or as a beneficiary.
Okay, so frictional employment
give you those things. So that formative evaluation
also affects employers. When I said employers also get affected
Number 2,
by unemployment, and I said I'll talk about later.
It's easy
I meant
to see and visualize.
We are discussing frictional unemployment.
The outcomes.
An employer can also suffer from unemployment, especially frictional unemployment.
No, sir, today it is your day.
This is when you resign.
Yes, your day today. What is an,
you leave a gap, a vacancy.
What is an output?
And for the employer to replace you, they have to go through processes.
An outcome and an output.
They must advertise, shortlist, interview people, and then agutengani.
Which
you are
saying
I resign kwinako. I'm supposed to give 1 month notice. Company
give us an example.
So for 3-4 months, there will be unemployment at their institution. They are suffering loss of production at the institution, at that company.
Go ahead.
Caused by frictional unemployment. Hiring, replacing somebody, that time that takes to replace an employee is a time of unemployment for that employer, which they didn't want. It came because you resigned. Now they have started losing production. For example, you know, if you were part of their plan, that this machine, for it to produce,
you
we need so many people. For it to produce maximum
Input,
amount.
output,
Now, because
right?
one person has
Input,
left,
output.
they are producing
Input,
a little bit less,
output.
but it's taking long for them to
But what happens after the output?
to replace you. Sometimes
The
it can be a time where
Right?
you have employed
Can you give us some example?
but
Yes,
these people cannot work. You need to train
This is a
them.
small example.
So frictional employment is basically
Give us an example
those
in that
gaps.
area. Input, output.
Could be for you.
Let's have input,
Thousand and chitima pezeka ikutai.
output.
People who want labor bali kunsanje apanga factory kunsanje, and a company has opened a mine in Sanje. They want people.
Okay.
And yet
Simple
they have
example.
employed everybody.
You have
there are
a
some
policy
people who are employed by the people.
which intends, I've given you this example, I think, over and over again.
So they need to relocate.
To protect girls from
How can
dropping out
government
of
deal
school.
with this?
Right? Your inputs here will be so many.
Especially on jobs that are regionally
right?
or geographically.
The human resource,
Government
financials, and whatever it is, and even identification of those girls you want to protect, right?
In all the areas.
Now, the output here, you want protected girls. See, George?
They can
protected
also
girls,
try to arrest rural-urban migration. Rural-urban migration is also one factor
This
of
will be
this
your
frictional
output.
employment.
So your measure
Work is
of
somewhere
success
else. People
of
who
your
want
project
are
or
elsewhere.
your program will be dependent on the numbers
people
of
start
girls who have been protected from early marriages
The other
also,
thing is
or
that
girls
some people
who
leave
have been
a job
able to complete. Right?
because
That's your
according to
output.
the salary that they are
Now,
earning,
out of these girls,
seated
what
where
will come
they
out?
are, that salary is not enough.
They have all completed their school, whatever it is.
So they will try to
what comes from what they do here becomes the outcome.
So for example, Lilongwe is very expensive in terms of housing.
They go work in government.
Salary, which is maybe 100,000
is increased labor force in
finds
government.
it difficult to make ends meet.
And leads to economic
But in
whatever,
Blantyre,
all sorts of things, right? Too many things.
that 100,000 makes
will be
somebody
your outcome here.
rent a house
But the output that you wanted to have is
so
all these
people when
girls
you
must
hear
not be
that,
married,
you say,
they should complete, right? That's your output. So if somebody comes around and says, okay,
because life there is better.
had this project here. What did
That
you
kind
get out
of
this
frictional
project?
employment.
No, the 300 girls I wanted to protect,
to make sure
I've protected
these facilities are available
270
everywhere.
from 300 that you wanted here. See, yeah, 300. So your output will be 270.
Me as an economist,
right? Now, what they'll do after that will be the outcomes.
Government, I would say,
right. Now, those outcomes, are they beneficial or not beneficial? That's why issues of evaluations come in and all sorts of things.
Yeah, the economy should sort it out.
To check.
The market should sort it out.
As far as the project is concerned, you are supposed to protect this, you produce this as your output. You failed to protect another 3.
Yeah.
Here. See,
because
what is this?
If you know that your salary cannot make you live,
what is this set?
Why don't you protect?
This set got pregnant on the way.
Strike. Why don't you go home? If everybody, if all of you workers
becomes
what you go through this company, the many, this salary, if you see to to make ends meet, it's too low.
Throughput.
No,
something has happened along the way. No, 310 kusukuru mmalize.
So you find somebody.
Yes.
No, samaguriza.
Wina panjira.
The market can.
Aonana ndi wina asianza kuyendera wala muchire.
But as I said,
no good for government. Safika kukuya. That is a throughput.
Because of the throughput it creates,
is an unexpected output.
Else, standard of living going down.
Unexpected.
Voters unhappy.
Something when you're planning, you didn't expect
everywhere.
Out of these 300, third of them will be pregnant. Or
they try to intervene.
Because what you wanted is 300.
So these are the
but in between, certain things happen. Right? Types of unemployment. These girls get pregnant. What do you think is the problem? What would be the problem?
So be able to describe what these things mean.
You have the question, ask first.
What is cyclical unemployment? What is structural unemployment?
Who should go ahead? Ask
what is question unemployment? Can you tell me how government can deal with each one of them?
That's supposed to.
Okay? Then there's seasonal.
You have planted, let's say, 6 days.
Seasonal unemployment ambiri maiziwa. Sijoncho.
You meet the agreement.
Yes.
Iwe. Izi nsina chosetu hapa hizi.
Opportunity cost.
It's caused by demand.
So just an opportunity cost. Some opportunity, bad opportunity has occurred.
Demand deficiency.
Those are the things I was arguing
inflation.
with this company called Pixas. You heard about
When
Pixas?
the demand
They
is low,
provide inputs, whatever it is, and something like that, right?
in the system,
To farmers.
it means companies cannot
And
sell.
I went there and said, I want to produce groundnuts.
So there are stock levels in the warehouse
produce groundnuts. So once you produce, you still take it to them, they buy from you.
At the market, they are not selling. The demand is low.
I identified my land.
So what
was an
they do,
input,
they cannot continue.
My labor, everything, my
Because
input,
this is good
and they gave me seeds
They cannot continue producing.
as an input.
So what will they do?
But for me,
Stop.
at the end, I
Lay
must
off
give them back the equivalent of those bags of seeds that they gave me.
So
That's
it happens.
And one of the inputs here was the extension worker, an expert, right? Who is supposed to advise me on what to do.
And you should be able to explain it. Don't draw these things to me.
Now, these are dangerous
explaining.
undertakings because you are dealing with too many things around.
And just
The
draw
other
like this
input here is weather,
Nkuma Peter.
where nobody has control over, right?
Or you draw
So last year the rains
and
never
say
came.
where the unemployment
My
is
10
happening,
hectares,
and you don't
everything,
explain.
nice, beautiful groundnuts. They didn't dry, but they
That
didn't.
is fraud.
It became so dry they couldn't get the seeds down. So all those things were just hanging.
When you are
nothing, no garden, nothing out.
You need to
And that was my expert.
what we mean.
So take him, you're my
Demand
expert.
issues.
You are a consultant for your company. Come
And that's why I said,
around, says no.
Umumu
This is a
demand
waste of
issues, just
time.
like
This is
when
a
fresh
zero.
culture.
Right? So it
Now,
is
the
zero.
problem,
So how does that zero mean?
I talked about seasonal unemployment.
How do I give them their money?
I don't think
I can't take my money and give them. No. This one I work
some
for.
unemployment is
I wanted the money from
because
here so that I give them their money.
ya mango
That's the
yata.
question is.
Amena
So
magulisa
say, now
mango.
look here. When you are doing
Season
this,
yata,
you
yata.
do little assessment.
You have to wait
check
till the mitego
whether the
ibeleke some
hazards of the
later
weather
on.
can
Kaka
affect
jamaa.
these things. They say, oh, this and that. Oh, yeah.
If you
So,
are an
am I
expert
going to
in
pay or not?
kukwera mitengo
You'll pay. I
kumakasura
said, I
mango
cannot pay.
za zote
Because I'm not
kulisa.
going.
Kapena
Go back
iwe
to
ndi
him,
chito ama
give us
kulemba
all
ene
these
yake
things,
mitengo
but you
acha.
didn't bring the
Kuti
rain.
wewe uzikwera
So who's
mitengo
going to
mujamu
answer?
uzichora.
Right?
Yo azigulisa.
That's why the issue of insurance comes.
Season yikata
So
yose
it
chiro.
means they insure themselves against the weather. In case it happens, the insurance will pay.
Okay? So that's
can't
seasonal
come back.
unemployment.
I don't hold it.
Then there's under
did everything.
unemployment.
Up to the end, they came and checked. Yes, I know this.
So seasonal,
So you have all those things. That one,
Under.
those are auto incidentals,
under
where
employment.
you end up with what you call an
It's also
opportunity
type
cost.
of
It's somewhere where
unemployment.
you win or you lose. That's an
Under
opportunity cost, right?
employment
You win or you lose.
is
But
a
if
type
in between
of
here,
unemployment.
something happened, animals came
Under
and ate
employment
everything, right?
is also a type
That
of
would be a throughput.
unemployment.
Something I didn't expect.
Basically, it
and
means
something
you
that
are
people
willing to work
don't
4
expect
hours.
because I'm supposed
But
to
the
be here with my
employer
workers to
is
protect.
can only offer you
that one.
4
They're
hours
going
a
to
day.
say you pay.
So, and
You are
yet
careless.
you are willing to work full
How did
time.
you allow animals to come there and when you are supposed to
Part-time
have workers
people
around?
are
That's a throughput.
underemployed.
An unexpected
They are
occurrence.
a part of the
Yes.
unemployment
The
statistics.
opportunity cost is something that you have no control over. It just happens. But you can also manage it, mitigate it somewhere. So their mitigation strategy was the insurance. So that in case rains
Now,
don't come, insurance company will pay.
Fiscal and
How
monetary
insurance companies
policies
recover those,
can
that's none
deal
of my
with
business. It's their business.
inflation,
So this
can
is how
deal with
these things work around.
employment.
Yeah, so this is what formative evaluation would be.
Very critical for you to understand.
Right? It gives you,
That
actually the whole of
any
your design
policy you
shows
do
you. Right
has
here,
side effects.
I gave you an example of Pixas, right? They had the
Any
formative evaluation.
prescription, because
Right?
our ni mavuto.
Their design,
Inflation
you do this,
is a-
you do
is
that,
a
this is how
problem.
we're going to implement.
Government
this sort of
finds
thing.
it
We'll
a
be
problem.
following you up, whatever it is.
So
and
they will
something like that.
prescribe the
To be
drug
able to understand and also
to deal
try
with it.
protect themselves
But it
from
has
any
side
hazards
effects.
that may occur around. So formative actually informs you
if there's
about
inflation,
how you can
they
avoid
will
some
try
of
to
these
find
things
measures
like
of
that.
dealing with it.
And also, on my part, I had to
So,
always talk
they will
to
look
their
at,
consultants.
is it
Can you come
inflation,
from
is
time
this
to time? Can
demand
you
problem?
come? So that
Or is it cost of
anytime he
production
comes, in my view,
So they should find a way
he writes a report.
if they want to
Because
get
you
rid
cannot
of
just
it.
come and visit and you keep quiet.
But
I mean, that's
remember,
work zero.
it always creates
So I was thinking, okay,
side
where
effects.
he's living, he has a boss, right?
So policy makers have to be very
Means when he
careful.
goes back, there's feedback.
How much of dose do you give?
Situation in Marcos, something like that.
If you
But to me,
overdose,
he must have a record from
the
his boss.
side effects are
We
also
visited
big.
so many times. What did you notice? Right?
If you
That's
underdose,
did you advise him to?
patient search here.
Yes.
Now,
can you do
look
spray
here.
Makwara? Can you do this? That's
Can you
part of
Naguti?
that. No. So
When there is
informative,
inflation,
it informs you exactly what
the
you can
good
do,
thing of inflation
how you can
is
do, some
that
of
there
these things.
is
And
no
also,
unemployment.
it helps you to look at things that you can be focusing
Initially,
on. It's quite
you can
an
see.
interesting part of it. So
This
let's just look at
business
some
expansion
types
period
of formative evaluation.
has inflation,
The types.
but full employment.
One of those we mentioned earlier on, a needs assessment is one type of
if you try to deal with inflation,
assessment. And I think I've given a lot of
so that
examples
prices
on
do
this
not
one
go
here.
up, okay,
Needs
fine,
assessment
prices
is
start
one of
going
those,
down because you have done something.
assessments.
Prices starts going down.
Evaluations rather. So needs assessment
So you have solved
is a formative
the inflation problem, right?
It informs you.
But
That's
remember,
an assessment, right?
when prices
it informs you
starts going
about
down,
what not
because you have done
or
something
what
to inflation.
do, right? It focuses on
starts
identifying
creating
the actual needs
unemployment.
around, priorities and all sorts of things.
So you
What
stop
are you supposed to
inflation
do? What are you
and
not
create
supposed to do?
unemployment.
How do you do it or how don't you do it? That's a formative
problem.
evaluation. And
Dealing
also,
with inflation
usually it's
has
conducted
side effects.
at the beginning of any program or project. So you're trying to do this
Because when
before you
prices
start.
start going down, according to
Before you
your
start
wish,
anything, they must do an assessment.
you are a government,
and that
you wish
gives you an
prices
indication
should be going
of
down,
how you're
people
going to
should be
progress and how
happier.
things are going to be in the long run.
This rising prices is not good. People are complaining.
It helps the program designer
do
to
something.
identify areas requiring attention.
You implement a policy to make sure that prices start going down.
That require
But when
attention.
prices start going
So
down,
this one
and
will
fast,
actually give you those areas.
producers
An
don't
indicator
like
or
it
give you indicators
because they are not
on
gonna
which
make
areas
money.
require more attention and something like that.
So they start firing people.
The example that I just gave you.
So can you see
during
that you as a
assessment,
government,
that's
your
one thing
policy was
that
to
they
reduce
noted.
inflation.
You have to do
Now
this,
look,
you do that, all sorts of things.
companies
That
are
helps you
firing people
in your design and how
because they are not selling.
do what you're supposed to be doing. And also the individual
So
needs.
you have to make sure
and how to meet those needs.
that doses
It becomes very easy, informative. Okay, you have come to see me here, yes. What do
Now,
I need? You need so many workers.
Your problem was that there is unemployment.
You need all those things.
So here,
it means I was now being informed.
you were
able to
because the economy was expanding, prices were going up, businesses were opening up.
That
you as a
one type
government
of,
starts
evaluation.
you are contracting.
Can I move on?
You are introducing policies that are contracting the economy because of the inflation issue.
Is what we call the process evaluation.
So you have been practicing contractionary policy.
We normally focus on
and that's why here in Malawi, I don't think that is a good thing to do.
It also focuses on how effective
our problem is production.
When you are going to do
not
the implementation,
thing,
how are you going to
being worried with
it?
This is okay. Please
gives you that type of arrangement.
And the economy can deal with it. And her business
during
and they flood the market with things.
The program and also actual implementation. This is the process evaluation. In other ways, it informs you.
Can you imagine
process
many
dropping the program and also to be informing you.
Have you noticed that
to start implementation of that program?
Farmers are happier.
That's where it really does help you. And if you check closely, is actually what we call a monitoring it gives that continuity.
Farmers are very happy.
Look at all the processes that coming up with
I went to
a program or something like that.
I couldn't imagine the way Ndi anthu oti anyamata agula mabasi, mamibasi, ena zinjinga. Fanyoti amalima Ford vena amalima something we call munchesi kwa tuko. Koma pachizungu amati sesame seed. This sesame seed is only grown in Karonga and Chikwawa. Zija zimakhala amawika pamamba pa bread. Amawaza pamamba pa bread pachi. Amati sesame seed, just cook. You will see. The prices were like 3,000 a kg.
But one.
Amalima kwa mbili antu kumeneko. And sizifuna fertilizer.
There is also what you call
but it's a very high value crop.
This type of evaluation
is very low.
Is participatory in nature.
6-7 years ago, they were very low prices.
From the development.
But now the prices are good. People are happy,
right?
And people are.
We can tell me what participatory method.
My friend, I'm down in
we must have learned also.
Second
year, third year.